big picture in the United States is that in the industrial, commercial, and high-density residential markets, the Department of Energy estimates that 30% of that electrical energy is wasted. That translates into $75 or $80 billion a year at the current state of the art in energy services and technology. Metering right now, by and large, is about measuring the amount of energy that goes into a building or a factory in its totality and sums it up once a month so that the utility can give the owner a bill and the bill can be paid and everyone feels that it's accurate. Modern submetering technology that CircuitMeter in particular has championed is all about breaking down that once a month energy for the entire building into its very fundamental components so that the data can be used to find out where energy waste and losses occur. We started with the premise that in order to really have the right amount of data, you had to be able to measure at the circuit level, and you had to measure in real time, and that's what we've accomplished. So in our software, we're breaking down and measuring all of the electricity at the circuit level, and every 2 seconds, data is flowing to the cloud. And so in the end, we've got what you need to really analyze these losses and understand how you can reduce them and save money. The idea of being low cost isn't that we'll be just be cheaper than everyone else. The idea is that by being low cost and at the circuit meter, that owners can afford to deploy it very broadly and say in a very large building, meter 1,800 or 2,000 points instead of 3 phases for a meter at the entire building. And in order to do that, again, it has to be low cost. So our hardware and our patents are based on this radically new design, are all about turning amps and volts into data. CircuitMeter is essentially about having hardware that can, at a very low cost, meter multiple points and in real time, put it all together and communicate it to our cloud-based software where we can make sense out of it all. So that's essentially what is completely different about CircuitMeter. When I talked about energy being wasted, right, it's right the way across the industrial, commercial, institutional, and high-density residential markets. So we see value in every one of those markets in similar but somewhat different ways. There's energy that's we call unnecessary use, and there's 2 broad categories. In every instance that we've gone into in a building or an industrial facility, we find mistakes. We find heating systems that are working in the middle of summer. We find cooling systems that are working in the middle of winter. We can quantify and benchmark basically every system, every bearing, every fan, every pump, and then when something starts to go wrong, whether it's wear and tear or malfunction, and the energy use goes way up, say it doubles in the course of a day, or it increased by 50% over the course of 2 years, we can measure that, and our system can provide feedback to the building or the facility management people so that they know that there's something wrong and they can go and do something about it. Otherwise, this inefficient use can go on for years and years and years. With the ability to walk right through an entire building's energy systems from your computer, you can find all these mistakes. And then with our software, in fact, after you fix the mistakes, you can put in checks that say if this ever happens again, send management an email and tell them that it's occurred. The other side of the unnecessary use are what we call behavioral issues. So people don't turn things off at the end of the workday, for instance, when things are left on all weekend, or when people leave large photocopiers in standby because they think that that's fine and they don't understand how much energy is being really used. All of the things that people can affect are also measured, and then the feedback comes to them and they suddenly become enlightened about all the energy they wasted, and that feedback allows them to change their behavior. There's unnecessary and there's inefficient. You put them all together and that's your $80 billion a year in the United States. One large real estate company on the East Coast found that once the energy was taken out of being buried in the lease rate and became a line item underneath, they found that overall energy use declined by 30%. And the owners did nothing. They didn't make the equipment more efficient. They didn't make the building more efficient. All they did was break out how much energy is being used and make it variable based on behavior. Different kind of experience is with a commercial tenant. They found that once weeks, they had the ability to break out the energy use on a half a floor by half a floor, and that every week they would produce an energy report that would go up by the coffee machine, and people could see how their energy use compared with the other, they called them neighborhoods, also how they compared with previous weeks. And in fact, it wasn't just a number, it was a breakdown. So they could see that from lights to computers, they were simply able to monitor and track it, and so they could very quickly figure out what was discretionary and what was wasteful. The challenges that are ahead, I think, are that this is a brand new way of thinking, both in the industrial, the commercial sector, for management, and the idea that you would measure everything and then use that information to create savings will take a while to gain hold. Companies then protect management, people that they're being asked, show me 2, 3, 4 years of studies that quantify the exact amount of energy reductions before I approve the expenditure on the energy management services or on the metering. The companies that are more aggressive, and I would say probably more professional and energy savvy, understand that 1 or 2 year paybacks can be coming, and so those are more the kind of companies that we're seeing adopt this type of approach in the early stages. But over time, governments are going to use both a carrot and a stick. New York State, for instance, has both subsidy programs and laws to make this kind of thing mandatory, as well as policies where they're saying we're going to put this into our state buildings to demonstrate to the rest of the country that we're leaders in energy efficiency, both in terms of being cost competitive and in terms of being environmentally aware. Now, the energy sector in this country has got huge changes ahead of it, and the clean tech movement that consists of clean generation and smart grid, these are all coming. But one element that is very basic is energy efficiency. And CircuitMeter is a breakthrough in terms of the economics and the power, and using modern technology to provide those tools to the industry.